Hello, everyone.
Yeah, welcome back to WarpZone. It's been a bit. It's good to be back. We're going to call this season 2, season
Yeah,
1.5, something like that.
Happy to
I'm
be
Phil B.
back.
Real.
I'm Sean Nugent.
And I'm Jose Society. There we go, boys. Season 2.
Season 2, we're all coming from different parts of the zone.
Yes.
It's good to be back. So let's just talk about quickly what everybody's playing. For me, these days, locked down in sports mode. Been playing some Madden, been playing some FIFA, NHL. Everything came out at the same time. PGA 2. It's pretty wild. Good sports gaming time. That's what I'm locked into these days. Sean?
I'm working on the review for Star Ocean, the Infinite, the Divine Order, something like that. I can't keep track of these anime video game names, but I'm into it. I won't spoil anything, but I'm having fun with it, even if the story is nonsense.
As long as you're enjoying it, Sean. Still in my zone, trying to, progress through multiverses. Madden can't seem to shake it. Phil, I'm excited you brought FIFA up because I know that there's a new one out. I don't know if going back, if you all remembered, if you were into the soccer games, how for every World Cup, they would also release a separate game where within it, you're just playing as if it was a World Cup tournament all the time. I feel like the last one I remember playing was maybe in the Germany World Cup, the Brazil World Cup even. Doing a quick search, I didn't find any that would be for this year in Qatar, so maybe they just, in FIFA 22 and 23, they just weave that in, I guess. So, that's me going back to
there's some presence in there for sure. There's not going to be a separate game. And the interesting thing is this will be as I understand it, the very last FIFA, because FIFA itself is taking away the brand from, or the licensing from EA.
Sports.
So whatever they come out with next year won't be FIFA. So the FIFA era has defined, my entire life of video game soccer player. In fact, it was FIFA World Cup, I think 90, was it 98? The France 98. One, it was 98. The France, that was the game that taught me about the sport of soccer itself. I used to not even like soccer, but playing in the World Cup, getting through it, taught me to appreciate the game. And then I became a huge soccer fan. I'm a huge World Cup fan, at least. I'm not as into the club scene, but very excited for next month's World Cup. Who among soccer fans is? And it's just a colossal event. So every 4 years, just very excited. And my dark horse is Canada. I think Canada might just be the team that shocks everybody and takes it home.
And the strong North American team leading up to the Cup, Phil. So I think you've got something to, stake your claim on.
Yeah, they dominated the U.S. and Mexico. It was humiliating, actually, to be an American soccer fan and watch what Canada did to the U.S. throughout World Cup qualifying. So I hope it's because Canada is actually a good team. Or it could be that U.S. is just really, really bad, which also very well could be. So who knows?
We'll initiate Sean into this at some point since the Cup's coming up next month.
No, go sports.
Go sports.
Germany.
So Jose, you've got a good show to recommend, right? Or a movie or something like that.
I do. I will preface it, Phil. I don't know how big of a Bowie guy you are. I speak to probably an audience that has lived, breathed, and absorbed his discography like Sean. But if you check it out, Moonage, Daydream, of course, it takes its title from one of his more popular songs. There's definitely a following there. I'll describe it, guys. It's not a very linear story. It in some respects, it kind of gives you a taste of all the different characters Bowie in his, artistic life. He donned, the mask of the Ziggy Stardust and Thin White Duke. So they don't really, the filmmaker, Brett Morgan, he's done documentaries with musicians. He did the Kurt Cobain one that came out on HBO. He did a well-received documentary about Jane Goodall. So this is sort of his bread and butter. I would call it, reading some of the reviews, post watching that movie, it's definitely more of an emotional experience type thing. It's not very linear storytelling. It is the first documentary they claim that's been licensed by Bowie's estate. So what you're getting is probably these never before seen glimpses into him painting and sculpting, all of his other artistic passions and interests. As much as he fascinates me as an artist, When you listen to him talk, I think that the filmmakers made a point to show you like how intellectual he was about making and thinking and conceptualizing the music, to the point where if you're not into his music, he comes off almost as too aloof, like way too erudite. Like it's way too academic to sound it, but I really think he did approach it that way. And then as he got older in life, you sort of see how it wasn't so much about standing out with the music. It was more of, what does he want to do, and what does he feel like the audience can listen to that helps them get closer to him. I think that was a central theme running through the documentary. He had a very interesting relationship with human interaction and contact, and so it was just a very very experimental art house collage. There's sort of a moon theme. There's this sort of like opening scene that you come across like a moonscape, and so it's just trying to get you to feel like it's very alien and unlike anything else you'd seen, which I think describes Bowie pretty aptly. He's not like most other rock and roll artists in the modern realm. So I would definitely recommend Sean to go watch it. As nothing but just a documentary exercise, Phil. I think it'd be interesting. It's not too long, hour and a half plus. So
yeah, it sounds great. And the point you brought up about it being authorized by him, to me, that gives me pause, because that just means we're going to have a very rose-colored look at his life rather than the warts and all stuff. But on the other hand, it does provide access you wouldn't get otherwise. So that's a really intriguing part for me. But Sean, you kind of look like David Bowie. So like, what's your Bowie level of fandom?
Well, we all know, if you watched our music WarpZone many moons ago, David Bowie is probably my favorite artist of all time. I did not see this movie because it wasn't playing anywhere until it started playing at the Loft.
That's right.
So I did not get the opportunity to see it yet. I really want to. I've listened to the album that has the music, it has the live recordings, it has some of his musings, philosophical musings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to your point, he was a very well-read individual. He had drug addiction. He had everything that rock stars have, but he was also just so intelligent. And I mean, he made an entire album about 1984, which nowadays is kind of like, whatever, 1984. But at the time was pretty substantial. And some of his most popular songs are just about history. Loving the Alien is about the Crusades. So... but it's interesting that this focuses. I noticed it ends kind of in the 80s.
They do not go much beyond like the last couple albums, Sean. They sort of let you live in this vacuum where, like, I think he's in his 60s, and so that might equal what his 2000s work. But it wasn't so much about the music; it was much more about his passion projects outside of the recording studio. To Phil's point as well. The access, you on one hand you get the access. I'd be remiss in saying some of his more sordid stories don't get mentioned. It's sort of, I think if you walk in there understanding Bowie, like I think you do, Sean, you understand it's not the complete portrait, but it very much focuses around what I think he wanted you to feel listening to his music.
And it's so hard to make a documentary not mention the negative things, because he embraced a lot of that. His Berlin trilogy was just him getting away from drugs. And I mean, even the lyrics, it's not the side effects of the cocaine station.
Living in LA. There were those recordings of him living in LA and just how that messed with his, his emotional health. For sure.
He lived off of hot chili peppers and gallons of milk. That was his entire diet. So I'm interested to see it. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
I think it's worthwhile. That's my recommendation, guys.
Yeah, very excited for that one. Movies have been in a bit of a rut these days. I know Black Adam came out. Embarrassingly, I have not seen it yet. I'm hearing good things about it, so that's one on my radar for sure. I'm really also embarrassed that I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick yet. And it's I think its home video release is finally almost upon us. I'm waiting for Paramount Plus It's where it's going to show up eventually. So I think November 1st, that I'm hearing will be a potential movie of the year, at least for me. So I'm going to be really amped up on seeing that. But lately it's been like a bunch of Disney Plus. One thing I will recommend is Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus. It's like less than an hour. It's very interesting, Halloween themed thing. It's kind of a throwback to 1940s and 30s monster movies, the classic ones like Dracula and Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, of course. So really interesting take on the Marvel universe. Recommend that. So what about you, Sean? What have you watched recently you recommend?
I haven't really watched much of anything lately. I've been more distracted by video games, and I've been reading the Witcher books. I'm just very distracted by everything but TV, which I guess is pretty good.
Let's hear about those games then, man. What have you got?
Yeah.
Tell us about Star Ocean.
Oh, you want to hear about Star Ocean? Okay,
Yeah.
Everyone looks like a porcelain doll. It's very there it is. Yeah, their eyes are horrifying. And the main guy who's in the middle with the giant sword, of course, because it's an anime video game, he just looks like a reject from like a Conan the Barbarian straight to VHS ripoff from the 80s. It's nobody looks particularly good. Graphically, the game isn't very good. It just has these wide open spaces with nothing happening, so I don't understand why they're as wide as they are. There is a really cool traversal mechanic where you can like fly around using psychic abilities or something like that. I don't know what the plot is. I've been playing it for 4 hours and still don't understand what's going on. But it's fun.
I'm glad it's you that's reviewing this one, Sean, not me, because this is a game that would probably lose me very quickly. But I know that you're really into games like this. I appreciate the ones that you direct me toward, such as last year's Tales game. Wouldn't really probably have played that without you kind of encouraging me. So that was kind of cool. Even though you weren't a huge like all in on that game, I think it definitely led to me. It was one of the top RPGs of last year. Mm-hmm. And then Sean, you and I also played some Lego Bricktales.
Oh Lord, I forgot about that.
We tried to forget about it.
We did play it, and I don't know, Phil. You want to take this one away, and I'll
is this for Phil to break down, Sean?
Yeah,
breakdown.
I are both very big fans of Lego games, so we're predisposed to liking this, or at least we're interested in what it might be. I mean, Lego, the Star, what it was even called, Lego Skywalker Saga. Is that
Skywalker Saga? Yep.
That was really a joy. That was one of the best Lego games I've ever played earlier in the year. So that was just so much fun. So Lego kind of had some good. There aren't quite as many of these games as there used to be. There should be almost a Lego game every month or every other month with Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or whatnot. They're kind of rare now. So we're like, okay, what's Bricktales going to be? And the theme here is that there's no licensing involved. You're set inside of your grandfather's broken down theme park, and it's about you to do a lot of mundane repairs, as it turns out. So you've got a bunch of Lego bricks. You've got this tutorial that shows you how to place them. And maybe this is a better game on PC. It certainly is rough with the controller it's just agonizing to size up exactly brick by brick where everything goes. And it's got to be pixel perfect, exactly the accuracy, or everything's going to fall apart. I understand if you're a big Lego fan, if you really like building, if you like Lego Masters, I love that show. There's a U of A student on there too, which is cool. We covered that at K-Gun. Maybe you'll get into this, but to me, it's just more fun to put Legos together themselves. It's quicker than actually like selecting something and then kind of like moving it around with your sticks and placing them where it needs to be. I was not equipped to handle this game very well. So what about you, Sean?
I agree. I wasn't. The problem with the game is that it's so repetitive. Once you finish a puzzle, you should feel like you're invigorated and you're ready to move on to something else. But it's just one puzzle after another, and they're also some of them are very frustrating the further you get along. So it doesn't feel rewarding to finish a puzzle. There should be a little carrot at the end of the stick, but there's not. It's just another puzzle. So for some people, maybe that's their thing. But for me, I very easily threw that aside to go play something else.
Yeah, one of those that there's been a lot of disappointment around. Sean and I were excited for Saints Row. Never got to play it. Neither of us did. They weren't sending out review copies of that game because it was so badly torched. It looks like we might be in a similar situation with Gotham Knights, a game that Sean and I have been looking forward to for months. And reviews are middling. IGN gave it a 5. Seen some 7s. Overall, looking like that one might be a rough experience too. We've got Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, the remake of that game coming out this week. I know Sean not exactly excited for that one. I'm middlingly excited. I remember the days where Call of Duty releases were huge events. Like people would miss work the next day. You even have Sean has an employee who's still doing that, by the way. Gonna be missing work the day after Call of Duty releases. But there were midnight releases. People would line up. They'd get all excited. There'd be like TV commercials, and it would just be like a big old rush when you started to play through the campaign and you compared the wow moments to each other. Definitely don't have that. That era has long since passed. But for me, there's still a remnant of that. I'm like, okay, cool. Call of Duty is out. Let's just see what it is. Sean, what are you thinking about Call of Duty?
I agree with you on the nostalgia for that. I was watching a YouTube video actually about the old Halo games and how people just lined up, dressed up as Master Chief for these games, and nobody cares anymore. But that was just the era. Call of Duty, Halo, you had huge turnouts for launch night. And I don't know that there's
Assassin's Creed 2 as well. Like
really
games like that. Those would just look like a new Zelda release, Mario release whenever they came out. Did you ever line up for a game, Jose?
Yes, and that might have been, man, what was it? Halo 2, Call of Duty 3, where like this to me feels eons ago. You know, like to your point, perhaps, Phil, I think that, you know, that massive groundswell of support for like that perfect demo of gamers that was going to go after this. Maybe we've just grown up and we found like there's new stuff for us to go check out.
Even if they had these, I probably wouldn't go anymore. Yeah. Other than people watching purposes, but really it's the digital model that's killed this. You used to have to get that physical disc, and for a while they treaded some water by saying, okay, you can come get the digital code, but then they realized that's just dumb and there's no need for that. Really what it boils down to is GameStop trying to remain relevant, and it probably wouldn't even exist right now. I mean, maybe it would without the whole Robinhood thing of inflating the stock price.
They're holding on, Phil. They're holding on.
Yeah, and it's a great Funko Pop shop. It's one of the go-to places for that. And if you want Zelda socks too, but yeah, the connection is fading away. Like there used to be gaming magazines and physical game stores, even other than GameStop, used to exist. But that era is dwindling. But we still do have Call of Duty games, annual releases, even though I guess we've heard that Xbox or that now that Microsoft does own the property, it's not going to quite be as frequent with those releases. But we'll see how that plays out. What else is anyone excited for? I know we're getting into a pretty interesting time of the year where there's some pretty cool stuff approaching. Anything have you excited coming down the pike, Sean?
Well, I won't say I'm excited, but I really want to play Sonic Frontiers because if it's bad, it's going to be a fantastic train wreck. That's just how these Sonic games are. If I don't think there's been a good one in a long time.
3D Sonic. I don't think there's ever been a good 3D Sonic, has there?
I liked Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I liked Heroes, but I was also a kid when I played those, so I might be.
Did you like Shadow, Sean? You seem like a Shadow liker.
I bought or my parents bought me Shadow the Hedgehog. I got straight A's on a report card for Shadow the Hedgehog. What a waste of my time.
You shouldn't have tried so hard in school, Sean.
Yeah, that's when I stopped trying. Shadow the Hedgehog made me a C student.
Jose, what about you? You ever play some Sonic games? Do you have any standouts?
Oh man, I forget what I wish I remembered which title it was, Phil, but I remember like how satisfying this was not on Sega proper ones. It was already when you could get these releases on Xbox, I think. Whatever the mid 2000s Sonic was, maybe there's like a Sonic 3. Does that ring a bell?
Sonic Colors, Sonic 3. You even had Sonic Ring. What was it? The Ring one for the Wii.
Sonic 3 might have been the one I last played. I just I enjoy sort of the playing. There's the satisfaction of these sort of horizontal start to finish runs. I just positive associations with the franchise. I'll tell you, Phil, like aside from all the online chatter that comes with this property now, The last Hogwarts game I played was Harry Potter, and the Sorcerer's Stone was the first of those. I never picked another game up. For the sheer play value of whatever this Hogwarts Legacy game is going to be, I'm like, I'd like to know how expansive they made it.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. We keep delaying that one, interestingly enough. So someday it'll come out. Hopefully not until it's right, though, because who wants a game before it's ready? It's not me. By the way, speaking of Sonic Origins game, Sean and I reviewed a compilation of the earlier Sonic games, the strictly 2D. Fantastic collection. If you're a Sonic fan, you're going to want to check that one out for sure. Maybe even more so than Frontiers, but we'll see. We'll give it a shot. I thought the Sonic movie was going to be awful. Most people did. The first one turned out to be fairly decent. Sequel's really solid. So you never really know. We just think we know what's coming up. We'll just have to see. But Sean, what else have you got? What else has been entertaining you in your world these days?
Oh, I've just been looking through video game trailers. If we want to stay on video games, you have Yakuza Ishin coming out, which is a Yakuza game set in feudal Japan. It comes out in February. That looks, I mean, that's more my speed probably than you guys. But Resident Evil 4 has a new trailer, or had a new trailer, which fans of the franchise were very split on it because Leon stops the chainsaw guy with his pistol, which ridiculous. But that game is where Resident Evil started getting, I don't want to say started getting, but started laying into the ridiculous. And this one's trying to be a little edgier, a little harder, but you can't do that with this series at this point. I don't know where they're going to
still hold up Resident Evil 4 as the best of the Resident Evil games. I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but in general, it's kind of seen that way. So it's like, I think I probably bought the game about 6 times on different platforms. We'll see about this one. It's due for a remake. All of these Resident Evil remakes have been fantastic. I'm sure they're going to put the same level of quality into it. So I am definitely excited. I'm excited more probably for this one than I am for a newer Resident Evil game whenever that one comes along. Although Village was pretty solid.
I was going to say there's so much goodwill about Resident Evil 4 that if they mess this one up, that's going to kill their remake momentum.
Yeah, they've got to keep it going.
My favorite Resident Evil is Resident Evil 6, by the way, because I'm a terrible person.
You're quite the contrarian. Sean, I also hear you're a fan of Andor.
Andor, yeah. Oh, if we're gonna get into the Star Wars talk, I haven't caught up with it, but the few episodes that I did watch were very solid. It was very adult, slow. It didn't feel pandering at all. It just felt like a individual, very entertaining story set in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I'm only a couple episodes in. I want to see more of it. Have you seen any of this one, Jose?
I have not. I feel like my new series fatigue, Phil, has gotten the better of me. It sort of becomes just to dive back into older stuff and catalogs. I mean, I always take your guys' recommendations. That hasn't steered me wrong yet. So if you think Andor is a step above Obi-Wan in storytelling and just like the newness of it, obviously, I think that's worth more. I mean, worth more time.
Well, it's just weird because Obi-Wan was one I was looking forward to because this is the prequel trilogy that I grew up with. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the one where I fanboy out. And I didn't care. I hated it. And I was saying, I don't care about Andor because I hated Rogue One. And I don't care about this character. And this is the one I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay.
Speaking of recommendations, Jose knocked it out of the park with the Harley Quinn. I binged that this is after we did our last episode, whenever that was.
Wow.
Go. Binged it all 3 seasons. I love that series. That's one of my favorite series I've ever seen. The writing is so great. Not only is it hilarious, it is sentimental at times. It's just a really funny take on the Batman universe. I love that they use the art style somewhat similar to Batman the Animated Series, but all the characters, say things and do things that they could never get away with.
Not on Saturday morning cartoons, Phil.
Exactly. Such a great series. Also, right now, a little late on this, but I'm catching up with What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu. Great vampire, really funny. Vampire thing, really funny. Beavis and Butthead, also absolutely excellent. Just as good as it ever was, maybe even better in some ways. Like Sean was curious, were they going to bring back the video commentary? They do with a vengeance. Not only do they talk about music videos, but also TikToks and other YouTube viral sensations. So just really, really great. Mike Judge is such a colossal genius who continues to be funny as the years go on, which rarely happens with the comedic mind. He gets it. Love it.
Awesome.
Well, I was gonna say, if we want to throw it to anime real fast, stuff that I'm watching, Spy X Fam. I think I've talked about it on here. Is fantastic. And Chainsaw Man. Everyone should watch Chainsaw Man. It's on Hulu. It's on Crunchyroll. It is, even if you don't like anime, it leans into the anime stuff. The man has a chainsaw come out of his face, but it's so good. The characters are really good for as weird as this is. And I've read the manga, so I know the direction it's going. And if you haven't read the manga and don't know where it's going to be like the kind of show that people are going to be talking about for a long time.
All right. We'll write that one down, Sean.
All right. Anything else from you, Jose, before we...
I hope to pick back up Severance for you guys. If you guys hadn't seen it, I'd started it and I just put it on a shelf. I feel like that's one of those shows of the year type things I want to give my 2 cents on. Maybe for next week. Oh, maybe we save this for as a tease next week, guys. Our must-watch Halloween movies, because I've been trying to build a list.
Well,
Let's do that.
next Monday's Halloween. It works. Then we could talk about Hellraiser, and we could talk about Constantine, which we mentioned we would talk about months ago.
And Halloween Ends too. I haven't seen
Halloween Ends,
Yeah.
Circle those squares, guys. There we go. It's perfect.
There we go. We'll all wear costumes too.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.